I was having a rough day, and it got worse when I was called to the principal's office for a disciplinary meeting. I walked through the empty corridors, trying to brace myself for whatever was coming. As I passed the trophy case near the main entrance, I noticed a man standing there. He was staring intently at an old photograph of a sports team from decades ago. His clothes looked strange, like something from a different era. The suit was old-fashioned, and he had on a hat that seemed out of place. I was curious but also uneasy. I wondered why he was here and who he was waiting for. I asked if he needed help, but he just said he was waiting for his son. His voice had a distant, almost wistful quality to it. I didn't linger. I had to get to the principal's office. When I arrived, I told the principal about the man by the trophy case. She listened quietly, her face growing serious. Without saying a word, she reached for a framed photograph on her desk and turned it towards me. It was the same man I had seen, only in the picture, he looked much younger. The principal explained that the man had disappeared from the school grounds over 50 years ago. He was never found, and the case remained unsolved. The photograph was the last known image of him, taken just before he vanished. The room felt colder as I absorbed the news. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had just crossed paths with someone who was never meant to leave that trophy case. It started on a Tuesday. I was walking down the hallway on my way to math class, my mind already dreading the algebra quiz I wasn't prepared for. I had passed by room 3B hundreds of times before. No one used it anymore. It was boarded up years ago after some kind of accident. But that day I heard something. Faint whispers, soft like a breeze, calling my name. Lily. I stopped in my tracks and glanced around. The hallway was empty, just the usual hum of the fluorescent lights overhead. I shrugged it off, thinking it was my imagination. Maybe one of the other students was trying to prank me. But the whispers came again, clearer this time. Lily, help me. I felt a chill run down my spine. My feet moved forward on their own, leading me toward room 3B. The door was old, paint-chipped and worn, with large boards nailed across it. The whispers were coming from behind it, muffled but urgent, like someone was trapped inside. My first thought was to turn back, forget about it, but the voice sounded so real, so desperate. Please, Lily. I'm stuck. I need you. I told myself it had to be a joke. Maybe someone hid a speaker in there or something. But deep down, I wasn't so sure. I stood there for a long time, listening. The whispers faded into silence. When nothing else happened, I walked away, trying to shake off the uneasy feeling clinging to me. That night, I couldn't sleep. The voice kept echoing in my mind. Who was it? How did they know my name? I had heard stories about room 3B, how a student had died in there years ago, some kind of tragic accident during class. But I never knew the details. No one talked about it much. The school had sealed the room afterward, and it had stayed locked ever since. The next day, I found myself back in front of room 3B after school. This time, the whispers started almost immediately, more insistent now. Lily, please. I'm trapped. Help me. I pressed my ear against the door, my heart racing. The voice was right there, just on the other side. Who are you? I whispered. I'm Jamie, the voice answered, shaky and full of sadness. I was here when the accident happened. I never left. I froze. The name Jamie sounded familiar, like something from a forgotten story. I started researching the accident after that. It wasn't easy to find much, but eventually, I came across an old newspaper clipping. Jamie Thompson, a sophomore, had died in a freak accident during a lab experiment in room 3B. But there was something strange. The article hinted at rumors that Jamie had been seen in the school after the accident. Some students had claimed to hear him calling for help late at night. The school had closed the room soon after. I didn't know what to believe, but the whispers wouldn't stop. Every day they grew louder, more desperate, and I felt this strange pull to go back to room 3B. I couldn't ignore it anymore. Jamie needed help, and for some reason he had chosen me. I still don't know how to explain what happened, or why I can still hear him sometimes when I pass by that old room. Maybe Jamie's spirit really is trapped in that classroom, waiting for someone to set him free. Or maybe, like so many others, he'll be stuck there forever. It was just past 9 p.m., and I was still in school, hunched over my desk trying to finish a project. The quiet of the empty corridors was usually comforting, but tonight it felt different. The silence was heavier, almost oppressive. I kept glancing up at the clock, willing time to speed up so I could get out of there. Finally, I packed up my things, eager to leave. As I stood up, I noticed something strange at the end of the hallway. A figure. It was tall and hunched, standing motionless in the shadows. At first, I thought it was just a trick of the light, but it didn't move or shift like shadows do. It was solid dark against the faint glow of the emergency lights. I called out, trying to get its attention. "Hello? Is someone there?" But the figure didn't respond. It was like it was made of the same darkness that filled the hallway. My heart started to race. I grabbed my bag and turned to leave, but before I could take a step, the figure started moving. It was walking slowly, deliberately, its footsteps heavy and echoing through the empty corridor. Panic surged through me. I bolted, the sound of those footsteps growing louder behind me. I sprinted down the hall, not daring to look back. My breaths were coming in ragged gasps as I rounded a corner and ducked into an empty classroom. I slammed the door shut and locked it, pressing my back against it, trying to steady my breathing. The silence inside the room was almost deafening compared to the noise outside. Then I heard its slow, deliberate tapping on the window. I froze. The tapping was irregular, like someone was tapping with a single finger, but the rhythm was unsettling. I slowly moved to the window, my hands shaking. I peeked out, hoping to see nothing, but the hallway was empty. No sign of the figure. Relief washed over me. I turned back to the door, thinking I'd wait a few minutes and then make a run for it. I slowly unlocked the door, my heart still pounding. As I opened it, expecting to find an empty hallway, I came face to face with the figure. It was right there, standing so close I could see its dark outline against the dim light. Its face was hidden in the shadows, but I could hear it clearly when it spoke. The voice was distorted, like it was coming from far away, underwater. "You can't leave, not yet." My breath caught in my throat. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. I backed away, but the figure didn't move. It just stood there, the words hanging in the air like a heavy fog. I didn't know what to do. The hallway behind me seemed to stretch on forever, and the figure's presence filled the space with a chilling sense of foreboding. I turned and bolted again, this time running down the hallway, not looking back until I reached the main doors. When I finally made it outside, I didn't stop running until I was safely in my car. I sat there for a few minutes, trying to calm my racing heart. Even now, when I think back on that night, I can still hear those footsteps and that whisper, as if they're echoing in my mind. I don't stay late at school anymore, and I avoid that hallway as much as I can. Whatever it was, it felt like a warning, and I don't want to find out what it meant. I never liked staying late after practice. There was something about the empty halls, the echo of footsteps in a nearly silent school, that always gave me the creeps. But I had to work on my free throws, so I stayed behind while everyone else left for the day. By the time I finished, the gym was quiet, and I could hear the sounds of my own breathing loud in the stillness. I grabbed my bag and headed to the locker room to change. As I got closer, I heard it, laughter. Muffled at first, like it was far away. It wasn't the playful kind of laughter, though. It sounded wrong, distorted somehow, like it was underwater or coming through a bad speaker. My first thought was that maybe some of the girls had come back, but when I pushed open the door, the locker room was empty. The air felt strange, heavy almost, like the room was holding its breath. I stood there for a second, waiting for something to make sense. Maybe it was just echoes from the gym, or something coming from outside, I thought. But the laughter didn't stop. If anything, it grew louder, bouncing off the walls, swirling around me, though I couldn't tell where it was coming from. Then the locker doors started to move. First, just one creaked open, like someone had barely nudged it. Then another, slowly, like it was being pushed from the inside. Before I knew it, the whole row of lockers was opening and closing, one after another. They slammed shut, then burst open again, over and over, as if someone or something was trapped inside, desperate to get out. I took a step back, my stomach twisting into knots. My brain couldn't keep up with what I was seeing. I wanted to move, to leave, but my feet felt glued to the floor. That's when I saw it, something flickering in and out of focus in front of one of the lockers. It wasn't solid, more like a shadow or a shape, but I could see it shifting, almost trying to form into something recognizable. I blinked and the figure was gone, then suddenly it was there again, closer now, hovering just in front of me. I stumbled backward, my heart pounding in my chest. The thing wasn't whole, but it was moving. I couldn't see a face, just this shifting, flickering form that seemed to be trying to hold itself together. It made no sound, but I could feel its presence like a weight in the air. Then it started to drift toward me, gliding over the floor, passing through lockers like they weren't even there. That's when I ran. I bolted out of the locker room, sprinting down the hallway without looking back. My only thought was to get out, to put as much distance between me and whatever that thing was. But as I rounded the corner, something stopped me cold. I was back at the locker room door. My mind spun in confusion. I had just run down the hall. I knew I had, but somehow I was right back where I started. It was like time had looped, like I'd never left. The distorted laughter echoed in my ears again, louder now, more frantic, almost like it was mocking me. Panicking, I tried to run again, but no matter which direction I went, I ended up back at that door. Each time I thought I was getting away, I'd find myself standing there, staring at the same flickering lights and hearing the same laughter echo through the empty room. I don't know how long it went on, minutes, hours. It all blurred together. Finally, something shifted. The laughter faded, the locker room seemed to settle, and the door in front of me stayed still. When I bolted out of the building this time, I didn't stop until I was outside, breathing in the cool night air. I never stayed late for practice again after that. No one ever believed me when I told them, and honestly, I'm not sure I even believe it myself anymore. But I still get a shiver whenever I walk past that locker room, like the air is waiting for something to happen again.